Let's see where we get to. So we're more about alcoholism, which is page 30 in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Let's just open up with a prayer. So God, we ask that you can come in and just fill our hearts and our minds and our spirits up, and let us just give us more of you. In fact, take all of us, take every little bit of us, and just make us into more of you and what you want, and allow us to carry your message and do your work and not our own. And no matter how bad things look, allow us to know that your plan is much better than ours is. Amen. So if I look like I was coming out of a brick oven and I've been frying in a brick oven, it's probably because I was. All my friends from Delaware, hey Delaware, all my friends from Delaware are here, and we got we got some scooters, and hung out and just rode around South Beach and all around Florida, from Fort Lauderdale to South. We've been on scooters, riding around scooters. Kylie, stop it. Riding around with scooters for 9 hours today.
That was fun.
Unbelievable. So an amazing day, amazing friends. We had some fun, and it was just an unbelievable thing, man. So at the top of the page, we've been discussing a lot of stuff in depth, and talking about the clear-cut directions, the flimsy read, and how this book seems to be, and then we got the other Drs. Young and Roland Hazard and stuff like that, and how we're these people came from money. They came from a lot of they came from status and stuff like that, and it was important for that to happen, because probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't like that. People who we discussed the different types of alcoholics, how we got some, and the crazy thing is I'm the real deal, where I'm part 3 of the stories. Lost nearly all. I lost everything every time I got anything. And it's funny because I know tons of people now who they had great upbringings, great families, came from money, everything, and they have the same problem I got now. They pick up one and cannot put it down for any reason. So it's not and we're talking about how the consequences doesn't make me an alcoholic. It's the allergy, not the behavior. It's not what I do. It's oh, well, I commit crimes, that's why I'm an alcoholic. And you'll even hear people say that, and you say, hey man, what makes you think that you're an alcoholic or a drug addict? And they'll say stuff well, I got 4 DUIs, or I've been to jail and stuff like that. And that's not me. Having 4 DUIs makes me a drunk driver, and committing crimes and robbing people and stuff like that make me a criminal, not a drug addict or alcoholic. So it's the allergy, not the behavior. At the top of the page, I write 3 definitions on the top of the page and more about alcoholism. The first one is illusion. Illusion is to mislead the mind. And then delusion. And you can come back to this, and that's the cool thing about doing stuff Facebook Live, is you can actually come back to it. So you got delusion, which is a false idea or a misleading thought. And then you got the obsession. The obsession is a thought or an idea that happens over and over again, which is a lie that has the power to actually kill. So to give you a brief description before we get started on why we're so the illusion is other people. For instance, I get out of, I remember from 18 to 24 I was incarcerated for my first bit of many, and I did about 5.5 years. I get out of prison, and like I thought in my head, I was like, I just want a job. If I get a job, I'll be okay. And then I get a job, then I'm like, I just need a car, and then a car turns into a house, and the house turns into more money, and I need, it just turns into more. But my cousin gave me a job. My cousin Eddie gave me a job in a local. He worked for his company was from local 74 pipe fitters union, and he gives me a shot, and I'm a driver, and even though I have all the experiences like we're talking about, through this first step stuff, I got all these experiences that tell me that it is impossible for me to use alcohol in any form whatsoever successfully. I got hundreds of consequences. I'm going to jail. I'm going to end up dead. I'm going to lose everything if I have anything to lose. And bare minimum, I'm going to have mental and physical suffering. But still, when I get out of prison, he gives me a job, and on Friday nights, they go to the bar. And I go with them. They invite me. Of course, I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I'll go, And I go to the bar with them, and that's the illusion, is like I look at them, and they're drinking just like I drink. They're getting smashed, patting waitresses on the butt, maybe even hitting lines of coke in the bathroom. They're getting obliterated, and I'm like, well, I look at them, and they are the illusion. Them doing that is the illusion, because the truth is, like, guess where they're going to be on Monday morning? Yep, they're going to be at work. I'm not going to be at work. I'll be in North Philly or Camden or dead, or already incarcerated, which is usually the case. So, and then I fall for the delusion, and I start thinking to myself, I see the illusion, and then the delusion starts to come, and I'm like, I can do that too. And they say, hey, Matt, you want a beer? And I'm like, no. And just like as we're going to get to in Jim's story when coming up here, I get to this thing in my head where I'm like, you know what? This probably isn't a good idea, Matt. And then I start to play with it, and I'm like, well, and this is a conversation I'm having with myself. It's like all in my head, you know what? Drinking is not a good idea, Matt. You're probably not going to be able to drink. And then the next thought is, well, I mean, you don't have a drink. You're not an alcoholic. You never went to jail for drinking, and the PO doesn't even. Every thought that I have that is counteracting the delusion has a rebuttal. So it's like, oh, you know what? Nah, man. No, man. I'm not going. I'm going to end up doing something different. And it says, well, no, you're not. You're not going to, and this is all in my head. You're not going to do this. I promise you that's not going to happen to you. This is what's going to happen. And get this, Maddie, the PO doesn't piss for alcohol. Brilliant. And then the obsession starts where I'm like, okay, bam. And then I get a drink. And like I said, they're at work on Monday, and I'm a no call, no show, and if they're calling me, I'm rejecting it. So it's important information. More about alcoholism. Most of us have been unwilling to admit that we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think that he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Of course we don't. I don't want to think like I got some retardation or there's some physical element to me. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by, and I underline this, countless vain attempts to prove that we could drink like other people. If you're watching this, you have countless vain attempts at trying to drink successfully and have somehow failed. Countless vain attempts to show people that he could prove that he could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control, and I underline control and enjoy. Control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. even though I've faced all this and my experience has showed me that this is going to happen, and it did happen to me multiple times, I think that this time I'll just do this much and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to do a little bit and that's it. Just on the weekend, this weekend, I won't even do it again. And then I'm just going to, like, it's going to loosen me up and I'm going to enjoy talking to the women and stuff like that. And I'm the type of alcoholic. I go to the bar and I tell myself I'm going to have a couple beers just to hang out with the women and la-di-da. And as soon as I take halfway through the second beer, the women disappeared. This is just my experience. The women disappeared. I don't even see them no more. And the coke man's out front. And I'm dead or in jail all in the same night. So I always think that I can control and enjoy it. It's the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion, there's that word, is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. Unbelievable. Next to this next little paragraph, I write definition of step one, because this is what we're talking about. This is the definition of step one right here next to this paragraph. We learned that we had to fully concede, we had to fully surrender to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. I have to believe that I am 100% an alcoholic, and this is the first step in recovery. The delusion, there's that word, that we are like other people or presently may be, has to be smashed. You got to get rid of that. I think it's smashed like the adventures where Hulk gripped Loki up and was just like mashing him all over the place and obliterated him. Smashed. It has to be smashed. It's never going to happen. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever, and see how ever is in italics. Anything that's italicized in this book is very important because it took a lot of money, time, and effort for them to italicize anything back then. So it tells you ever recovers control. Ever. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief. I circle usually brief, and on top of usually brief, I write always brief. It's always brief for me. I've heard, I mean, I know it's not always brief for other people. I know there's tons of people who get like, they got this, man, I was on a run for like 2 or 3 years and 7-year runs and all this stuff that people go on these runs for long, extensive periods of time. But I go on a very brief, short-term run that I immediately come to terms with. This is not good. But it's too late and I end up in prison for long, extensive periods of time, and I'm never able to, I'm just wondering if and to the point where I'm like wondering if I'm even going to make it home or not. Always brief. My intervals they're always brief. I remember me and my friend Buck, man, would even say, I remember we were passing each other and he was like, yo, I said, yo, you bagging baggage? And this is in the joint. And he was like, yeah, man. I'm going on vacation, and home was the vacation. Were inevitably, such intervals, usually always brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to a pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never ever better. We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. It's a bold statement, but honest to God, it's the truth. Neither does and this is very important to highlight, underline, circle with a smiley face, put a star on it, whatever you do. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which we are familiar with that make alcoholics of our kind, hopeless variety, like other men. There is no form of treatment. Now, this is written a long time ago, so some of you may be thinking, well, there's some stuff out. I promise you that we already went through this in the chapters before. That it's, these guys had like lobotomies done, electric shock therapy. Their forms and methods were a lot more crucial than ours today. So people would say, well, this works and that works. For the real deal alcoholic, nothing works. There's no kind today. Zero treatment. You go to the doctor, and some of you that are on right now, or some of you that are going to watch this, have already OD'd. You've OD'd before. You've been in the hospital, and what happens when you wake up? They get your vitals stable, and this is my experience every time I've OD'd, and I can't explain to you how many times that this has happened to me. I'm telling myself I'm done. I'm never going to do this again. I OD to get my vitals stable, and immediately. Have a good day, Matt. Sign your paperwork. They can treat the symptoms, right? But they can't treat the allergy. There's nothing they can do. If a person goes if a person goes to the hospital for eating peanuts and has a allergic reaction to them and his throat swollen up, they don't give you a cure. There's no peanut rehab. There's no doctor or therapy or counseling that's going to convince you or to help you not be allergic to peanuts anymore. It's just not going to happen. They'll treat you. They'll give you some Benadryl, stop the swollen and stuff like that. But the truth is, you're leaving there and you still have the peanut allergy. Just like when we leave the hospital, we still have the dope and alcoholic allergy. This is an allergy. It's a pretty good way to break it down. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, and we've all had that. We went to rehab for a little while, or I've been in a couple bits. You know, I do a couple bits and I get out, and then I'm thinking like, oh, I'm cool now, and it's followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with with alcoholism agree. They agree. The physicians agree that there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Just like there's no such thing as making someone that's allergic to peanuts not allergic to peanuts anymore. You can make it peanut butter. You can make it peanut butter ice cream, peanut butter syrup. Doesn't matter. Peanut oil. Cook my fries. I'll just put. It doesn't make a difference. You still have the allergy to peanuts. Just like I still have the allergy to alcohol and drugs. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. Old terminology, but you can write next to that, and it's the truth. Still hasn't. Still hasn't. Science has not accomplished it yet. Still hasn't. There's nothing. Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe that they're in this class. By every form of self-deception, which is a lie, and experimentation, I lie to myself and try it, they will try to prove themselves exceptions. That's a lie. I'm never going to be an exception to the rule. Therefore, non-alcoholic. How many times have we tried that? My personal experience, I'm sorry. Personal experience. I've tried that millions of times. I'm just going to do this and I'm going to prove that I can do this, and here's how. Never worked. Not once. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, listen, man, I salute you. Our hats are off to him. Heaven knows we have tried hard and long enough to drink like other people. Yeah, heaven does know. We sure have. Here are some of the methods that we have tried. Drinking beer only. Limited in the number of drinks. Just sniffing it. I'm not going to smoke it or shoot it. Never drinking alone. Never drinking in the morning. I'm just going to do it later. Drinking only at home. I'm just going to smoke weed. Never having it in the house. I'm just going to sell drugs. Never drinking during business hours. I'm just going to drink a little bit. Drinking only at parties. Switching from scotch to brandy. Drinking only natural wines. Doing coke with dope. Dope with coke to come down. Agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job. Taking a trip. Not taking a trip. Swearing off forever with a solemn oath. Taking more physical exercises. I'm just going, oh man, I know tons of people. I'm just going to the gym. Reading inspirational books. Going to health farms and sanitariums, detoxes and rehabs. Accepting voluntary commitment to asylums. We can increase the list to infinite. So can you. We do not like, this is such profound information. We do not like to pronounce an individual as an alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. Underneath, right here, or even on the next page at the top, you can write the Marty Mann test. Marty Mann test. Marty Mann was one of the, she's not the first woman alcoholic. Of course, there's been throughout history. Marty Mann was like one of the first women alcoholics to have recovered. And her test was this, and you can write this next on the bottom of the page too. Marty Mann's test was this: 2 shots a day, same time, every day. Take 2 shots a day and do that for 3 to 6 months. And if you can do that, you're probably not an alcoholic. And then I think about that, and I'm like, okay, if I even were to attempt the Marty Mann test, I would go to the bar, I would have 2 shots, and the entirety of the next day, the next 24 hours, if I left that day, I might be able to do it once. I might be able to leave the first day. But that whole next day, after I leave the bar, from the moment I leave to the next 2 shots, I am obsessing with, I can't wait to get to those 2 shots. And then I'm going to take the 2 shots probably on day number 2. And then I'm going to say, you know what? I'll just take 2 more, and then I won't do it tomorrow. I won't take the 2 tomorrow. So I'm going to take 4 now. And then as soon as I take the 4, Chico's in the parking lot. So you can quickly diagnose yourself. With fentanyl epidemic and stuff like that that's going on, this isn't something you want to go ahead and try. But the truth is, they're going to anyway. If someone is convinced that they're going to try to do this, and here's how, could someone stop you? They couldn't have stopped me anyway. Step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. Do it and stop abruptly. Try it more than once. If it will not take you long for you to decide if you were honest with yourself about it. It ain't gonna take you long to decide, yeah, man, I got this. It may be worth a bad case of jitters for you to get full knowledge of your condition. Though there is no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. It's a possibility in the beginning. But the difficulty is that few alcoholics like me have enough desire to stop while there is yet time. If I could have stopped, I damn sure wasn't ready to, and I wasn't accepting this fact. We have heard of a few instances where people who showed definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period of time because of an overpowering desire to do so. This does happen. This is actually an experience of mine, although it wasn't 25 years. So here we're going to go into a man with 25 years, and I'll share a brief story with you so you can kind of connect, and maybe you do have this story. It's an exception to the rule. So what happened to me is, in 2005, I was going to meetings, never working the program, I have to say that. I was going to meetings regularly, and fellowshipping and stuff like that, service work, but I didn't work a step. I didn't work a step, man. I might have accepted through like some life stuff 1, 2, and 3, but I didn't work a step. And the fact of the matter is, I had this overpowering desire to be successful in music and selling drugs. And that happened for me. That happened for me for a brief period of time. I blew up. I started to do music. Was actually a rapper. People from, it's funny, but it's the truth. I was a rapper. And that was my life. My life was music. I did songs all over the place. And I went to the studio. I sold drugs. I went to the studio and I did music. And I had this overpowering desire to get successful in music. But I have to say that and just like his experience, right? The connected thought was, if I get successful in doing this, then I'll be able to use successfully, at least openly, and don't have to worry about money or stuff like that. I can use wherever I want, because that's how the music industry is. That was only 19 months. But this guy, a man of 30, was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He's very nervous in the morning after these bouts. He quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he could get nowhere if he drank at all. Once I started, I knew that if I were to pick up any substances, it was a wrap for me. Once he started, he had no control whatever. Zero. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. As soon as I get successful in music and everything's okay, I'll be fine. An exceptional man. You can underline that because it doesn't mean this is an exceptional man. It means that it was an exception to the rule. This usually doesn't happen. I don't know of anyone that has that experience in my circle, in my group of friends, that's had that same experience that I had. And I'm grateful for that experience because it actually got me to, anyway. He remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55 after a successful and happy business career. Then he fell victim to the belief which practically every last one of us have, every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink like other people. Every time I get out, I'm okay. I've done this program. I've studied some stuff. I read, just like we just talked about, I read inspirational books, exercise. I'm feeling good. Mentally, I feel great. Same thing, man. It's qualified me. I can do this now. And I've never been successful at it. Out came his carpet slippers in a bottle. 2 months, hospital, puzzled, humiliated. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. Then, and just like me, after I got out from doing the bit, from the music and everything that happened through that, I committed a violent crime and went to prison for another extended period of time. And when I got out, I thought that I could get back to how it was. That was the mission. Like, I already did it. Number one, being an addict and an alcoholic was exited to me because I was like, no way. I proved that I could do this. And I sold drugs and I did the music, and I know I can do that again. And I tried every known means to get back to that point and was unsuccessful. Just like this guy. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. Then, gathering all his forces, he attempted to stop altogether just like I did and found he could not, just like I did. Every means of solving his problem which money could buy was at his disposal. I ain't had money like that, but I've tried every known means that money could buy. Every attempt failed. Important. 3 words. Every attempt failed. What a beautiful sentence. Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remain sober for a long stretch, oh man, that's me. That's how I used to think like that. If I stay sober for a long stretch, I could thereby drink normally. But here's a man who at 55 years found where he was left off at 30. We have seen the truth demonstrated. We have seen the truth demonstrated. I've seen the truth in my own life demonstrated over and over again. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, man. There's no going back. Just like there's no saying, you know what? You don't have a peanut allergy no more. That's it. Done. Go ahead. Go eat peanuts now. You're good. Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in a short time as bad as ever. If we are planning to stop drinking, there's that word, must, circle it. I love this word. There must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we'll be immune to alcohol. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they can stop as he did on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop, just like us. And hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find that he can win out. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years but found themselves as helpless as those who've been drinking 20 years. To be fatally affected, to be gravely affected, fatally affected. One does not necessarily have to drink a long period of time or take the quantities that some of us have. My fiance passed away over 2.5 years ago now. She tried one more time, and she sniffed a half a cat of dope, half a cat, and it took her out. And the truth is, like, I could have probably did 4 of those caps. It doesn't make a difference, you know. It doesn't make a difference. Oh, I built this immunity up, and that's what we think, you know. It ain't gonna take me out. This is particularly true in women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics were astonished at their inability to stop. We, who are familiar with the symptoms, see large numbers of potential alcoholics amongst young people everywhere. But try and get them to see it. You ever went to a place or drove by and seen some people and you see what they're doing, or even kids that we know or our kids' friends and stuff like that, and we see them and we're like, you know what? Yeah, man, this kid's getting out of hand. I see it all the time. I work in the industry and I work with young gentlemen, you know. And I see it all the time where it's like, man, a lot of kids come in and they're just like, I don't have no issue, you know. I'm here for this, man. And then as time goes on, you're starting to see, like, you know, the same behaviors that we had. And it's like, man, how do I get him to see it? But try and get them to see it. As I look back into the past, we feel we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our own willpower. Now that I look back, all the times I remember even saying it, like, I can stop when I want. Even though I never gave it a shot to stop, I would say that I could stop to people who were telling me to stop. Yo, I'm good, man. Everything's cool. And I couldn't. Now that I look back, I've been out of control way before I thought I was out of control. Then my family knew I was out of control. I was out of control long before they knew I was out of control, and me. It's a long time. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for a year. Test number 2. You can write that next to it. Test number 2 was like, yo, don't drink for a year. Anybody ever stop? Just like, you know what, I'm done. And no help, no nothing. Just, you know what, put it down and stop for a year. If you did, cool, man. I didn't. I couldn't. I couldn't stop for a day, 5 minutes. If he is a real alcoholic, be aware of the description. If he is a real alcoholic, such as myself, part 3 in the stories, part 1 and 2 in the stories too, but the real deal alcoholic where like this, oh man, I can't stop no matter what, and very far advanced, there is scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remained sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. I couldn't even stop in prison. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period in jail, and I used to say, well, I did stop for considerable periods, and it was always due to being locked up, but the truth is, I couldn't stop in there either. This is so cool, man. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may be yet a potential alcoholic. This is some cool stuff. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay anything dry like a year. Listen, if this is appealing to you, if you watch this and you're like, oh my gosh, man, that sounds freaking really familiar, and you're interested in this, you're not staying dry anything like a year, bro. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. For those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. We are assuming, of course, that the reader wants to stop. Rather, such a person can quit on a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. And we already talked about what choice is. We've been lost the power to choose. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever. I got plenty of character. I do good in life. I do not want to use anymore. Yet, found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone no matter how great the necessity or the wish. It doesn't matter how much I don't want to do this to people or my family or my mother or anyone for that matter. It doesn't matter. I'm unable to leave it alone. How then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? Well, the experiment for quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. We can render a greater service, man. We can render a greater service with this. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem. The mental states that precede a relapse into drinking. So we're talking about I'm sober. There's nothing in my system. We're talking about the times, that I get out of prison and you can take a piss test, a hair follicle, take a blood test. There's nothing in my system. I feel great physically. I feel great mentally. I have no pressing problems or worries. Everything is as it should be. And I got a girl. I got everything that I think that I want. And then somehow I get this crazy thought that says, on my way to the probation office, it tells me, who pisses me, mind you, in the state of Delaware probation level 3, pissed me every week. I don't know what your experience is, but in my experience in the state of Delaware, every single week I got a UA. And on my way to the PO, who I know pisses me every week, I tell myself, it just is a crazy thought just pops up and it says, she's not going to piss you this time. What? She pisses me every time. What do you mean she's not going to piss me this time? And I believe the lie and go out and use on my way to the PO. Or I have hundreds of experiences with this lie where I'm completely clean again, or I'm out of rehab and I'm sober, nothing in my system, I can piss clean. There's no, well, I have to use because I'll get sick. None of that is happening. And then I tell myself I'm just going to do one after I piss for the PO, because then I got 7 days before she pisses me again. How many of you said that? I got 7 days. Did you make it to a clean urine? And if you did you make it to the next? Obviously, this is the crux, deciding point, the vital deciding point. That's the crux, C-R-U-X. What sort of thinking? And I want you to know that don't think like I'm some type of word genius or something like that. Like I don't know this stuff. When I see a word that I don't know, I look it up. Which is what you should do if there's something that you can't understand or it's difficult for you to understand because of certain words. Then look it up and put a word in there that is more liable for you to understand. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperation, the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends have reasoned with us after a spree which brought us to the point of bankruptcy, prison, divorce, and losing everything are mystified when we walk directly into the bar or the block again. I've had drug dealers say, yo, man, I'm not even kidding you. I've had drug dealers, man, tell me, yo, man, man, what are you doing? I'm not even giving you nothing. Crazy, man. Why does he? Of what is he thinking? Here's a great example. We're going to go through a couple of them. Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. Underline Jim. Jim's real name was Ralph F. And it's important for me to tell you that and for us to understand that is because I want to know that these are real people. This is a real person. These stories are actual. They're factual. They really happened. They're people's experiences. So Jim's real name was Ralph F. So you know he's a real guy. This man has a charming wife and family, right? He inherited. I underline inherited because that doesn't sound like he earned it. You know, I put above it, not earned. He inherited a lucrative automobile agency. He had a commendable World War record. He's a good salesman. Everybody likes him. He's an intelligent man, normal so far as we can see, except for a nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. Few years he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer that we had found. Underline, he made a beginning. Above, he made a beginning. Write steps 1, 2, and 3. That was his beginning. He made a beginning. He did the 1, 2, 3 shuffle. How many times we did that? Like, yeah, man. Boom. I know I'm an alcoholic. Cool. I know I can't use. I'm not doing this no more. You know. I'm willing to accept some stuff. I got God in my life or whatever now. I'm willing to do some certain stuff, and then all of a sudden I get a apartment. I don't know why I said that. I ain't never got an apartment. I never made it home long enough to get an apartment. But I get something. I end up getting a girlfriend, car. I'm good. I don't need the meetings and the program no more. Sponsored. I don't even call them no more. Like, I'm good now. Shit, look at me. You know, look how well I'm doing. He made a beginning. His family was reassembled. Sound familiar? His family was reassembled, and he began to work as a salesman for a business that he lost through drinking. They actually gave him a chance to come back and work for the place. Wow. I really don't see that he lost the business because it was given to him anyway. All went well for a time. And underline this. But he failed to perfect and he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. Let's just say that. That's another chapter. He failed to enlarge his spiritual life. And above that, I write steps 4 through 12. So he failed to do the rest of the work. He didn't do inventory and stuff like that. He didn't make amends. He didn't try to do 10, 11, 12 and work with others. You know, thank you later type dude. I've been him, so I totally understand. To his consternation, just like me, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. On each of, this is important to note and to highlight and to underline. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. So much for if you get high, you need to find a new sponsor. Or, yo, you drank. Oh, yeah, man, now I can't sponsor you anymore, man. You messed up, you know. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. And that's what I do, you know, and that's what we should be doing. Oh, man, you need to find a new guy. I can't help you, you know. That's not the truth. That's good. It's all to the good. It's all to the good if you went out and he's back, you know. He agreed he was a real alcoholic. Now, check this out. He agrees he's a real alcoholic and in desperate condition. Serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. He knows I'm an alcoholic. I know I'm in desperate condition. Sounds like 1, 2, and 3, right? I know that I'm going to the asylum and take another trip there if I keep going. Moreover, I'm going to lose my family of who I have a deep affection. You know, so I'm going to lose my family and stuff like that if I continue. Very next line. Page 36. Yet he got drunk again. I've even said it. Matt, you know you can't get high no more. Yeah, I know, man. I know I can't. I'm on probation. Of course I can't. Consequences meant nothing. I get out the hospital after dying, flatline, and then 10 minutes later I'm using again. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. This is his story. This is his story. I came to work on Tuesday morning. Underline Tuesday. I wrote next to Tuesday. You get it? Like, what happened to Monday? Where's Monday at? Came to work on Tuesday morning. I remembered I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern on one's own. They give you a chance, a concern that was given to you, you lost, you probably didn't know how to manage it well, you know, and of course he's upset, he's full of resentment. I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. It probably went like this. Yo, Ralph, where was you at Monday, bro? Man, don't be questioning me, man. I used to run this company, bro. You in that seat because of me. F out of here. That's probably what nothing serious meant. But nothing serious. Then I decided, they didn't send him. Then I decided that I was going to drive out to the country, leave work, and drive out to the country to see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry. So I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I would get a sandwich, putting myself in a position. I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which was familiar, for I had been going to it for years. Now, I don't know if he's saying that the place is familiar or it was familiar to find a person for a car there. But I know I worked at Carmen Ford on 1340 Split in Newcastle, and I worked there, and I was a salesman there, and you weren't going nowhere to sell a car. The cars are on the lot. I don't know how it was in the 30s, but I know when you sell a car, they inspect the car, you take them for a test drive. The cars are on the lot. Shouldn't have been going nowhere. That's just my thoughts. Which was familiar. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at the table, I ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk. Still no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk. Ralph is hungry, man. So we got 2 sandwiches. My man Jim is hungry. He got 2 sandwiches, 2 glasses of milk. And then just like that, just like when I'm on my way to the PO, she ain't gonna piss you this time. You got 7 days now. Consequences, experiences, I have both right there in front of my face. I have live evidence of my own personal evidence that it's impossible to do, and some stupid, trivial, insane excuse says, you're just going to do 1 and then you got 7 days to get your urine so clean again. You'll be fine. And I go, Suddenly. That's a case of the suddenlies. Suddenly. This is all italicized. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind, just like that, man, just like it happens to us. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it wouldn't hurt me on a full stomach. Sounds brilliant, right? You know, no, man. Check this out, though. I ordered a whiskey and I poured it into the milk. So there's more milk. Check this out. I vaguely sensed that I wasn't being any too smart. His spirit's telling him, just like it did when I came home and I sat at the bar with my cousins and them, and it told me, like, this is probably not a good idea, man. He knows it's not a good idea, and it's like, yo, you're going to go back to jail, but yet suddenly, right, ounce of whiskey, glass of milk, full stomach, nice. Everything I have, there's a rebuttal, and the smallest, stupidest rebuttal. It makes 0 sense according to my own experiences and my own consequences, and yet I still go for the suddenly, man. Shot, an ounce, not even an ounce of whiskey, a glass of milk, full stomach. I will be fine. That's it. Nothing more, just 1. Sensed I wasn't being any too smart, a spirit was telling him, but felt assured as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk. I left the PO, and I did, and I was like, you fell for the suddenly, and I got the 1 pill, and then there was not just 1 pill, and then I couldn't get my urine clean for the next visit to the probation office. As usual. So I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk. Here goes the physical craving now. Now the cravings, the phenomenon of craving is developing. Whoa, it felt good. That's not enough. It went well. I'm cool. I took another one. That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another. Physical craving full effect now. Phenomenon of craving is there. It's a wrap. Thus started one more journey to, let's make this long story short. That started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. There was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, to say nothing of the intense truth, which is bare minimum mental and physical suffering that drinking always causes me. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic. I know I'm an alcoholic. Yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed to the side for the foolish idea that I could have whiskey if I only mixed it with milk on a full stomach. The foolish idea of, I'm going to do one pill and that's it, just to get some relief and feel good, loosen me up, and then I'll be clean before I have to piss again. That is fucking brilliant. It's simple. And it would be simple for a moderate, maybe even a heavy user. That is not, for the real alcoholic, that is never going to happen. One, I'm gone. Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. Some people say insanity is expecting doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I would say that I think insanity, for my personal definition, is doing the same thing over and over again, knowing what the result is going to be, and I do it again. How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? You may be thinking that this is an extreme case. It is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characteristic in every single one of us. We have sometimes reacted more than Jim did upon the consequences. But there was always the curious mental phenomenon that paralleled with my own sound reasoning. Oh my gosh. Man. You can't do another one. Man, you'll be fine, bro. You can use for 3 days straight, and then you got 4 days to get clean. Like, parallel with and I believe that even though I know it's impossible, and I know it's not the truth, I have experiences, I believe that shit. Parallel with my own sound reason, it sounds just like me. It's me arguing with myself. Inevitably ran some insanely trivial, some insanely small, stupid idea or excuse for taking the first drink or drug. Our sound reasoning, Matt, don't do this, failed to hold us in check. Consequences, out the gazooey, experiences, I mean, millions of them, thousands and thousands of them, and this trivial excuse is, ounce of whiskey, glass of milk, full stomach. Hold up, man, I'm going to lose all this stuff. I'm an alcoholic. I can't do this. And it fails to hold me in check. And the insane lie won out. Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. The insane lie idea won out. Next day, we would ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity, how did I do this again? In some circumstances, we have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified. We all did this. Oh, that she's cheating on me, that bitch. Or, no, man, I'm going to kill this, or whatever. Angry, jealousy, nervousness, justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like. But even in these types of beginnings, we are obliged to admit that our justification for the spree was insanely insufficient of the light of what always happened. That is going to make nothing better. Never has. We now see that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences may be. When I'm angry, it's just like, F it, I know. I even say it in my head, you know what's going to happen. I'm like, I don't care. Because I'm just, or depressed or whatever. I can't remember the consequences. Let me see what we look like. So right there is where I usually stop, and we will. You can put a little line in your book right there, and right under that paragraph of the, not the last paragraph, but the one we just got done reading. I can't remember the consequences, and do this: 5 examples of how I'm powerless mentally. I'll explain. 5 examples of suddenly. 5 times where you were completely sober. If you got that, man, I honestly, I don't think I've ever had 5 times sober where I was completely sober. But if I did, it was always the same. Usually it's the same lie that always gets me, which is she ain't gonna piss you, or you got 7 days, or just don't do it 3 days in a row, like stuff like that. So I'm talking about sober. I know the consequences. I know the experiences. I know I'm an alcoholic or a drug addict. I have all this right in front of my face, but I get out of rehab. I can piss clean. Physically, I feel good. Mentally, I feel great, right? And I'm thinking and doing and I'm working and all that stuff. And yet, suddenly, I get this thought, whatever it was, even if it was justified by nervousness, anger, or worry, or nothing at all, where you just got an insane, trivial excuse of suddenly. And give me five of those examples, and they're really for you. They're for your, we're not going to like go back and forth, but 5 examples of how you're powerless mentally. And I have to say, like, we're getting to a point like where there's nothing. If I can be frank with you, there is no form of there's no form of treatment that's going to stop the suddenly from happening. That power got it. This is why when we move into the second step deal, which we're going to be coming into here shortly, like we're breaking the first step down to the bone gristle. So when we get to the second step, obviously he's needed. Because like there's no form of therapy, counseling, drug counseling, detoxes, any medication. There's no form of surgery that can tie the knot together in my head to get me to remember the consequences. And when the suddenly happens, I don't believe it. And I say, no, not this time. There's no form of treatment that can do that. This is why it's a spiritual program, because that power has to come from him. Beautiful stuff, man. So we'll stop there. Take 5 of your own experiences and check them out. Make sure you go over them and look into it, man. Of like, damn, like we're not talking about like, because we come up with this excuse like I get high because like I got to, man. Like I'm sick. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to get sick. I'm not even talking about that. We're talking about past withdrawal and all that stuff. And you got high, which you get high to begin with. Because we think that after I get high, that's the problem. But the problem, obviously, is the mind rather than in the body. I know what happens. The physical part's kind of easy. I pick one up and it's a wrap. But the mental part is the crux of the problem, the vital deciding point of the problem. Because how do I even though I got all this stuff, how do I convince myself to take the first one? Clean. Sober, nothing in my system, and I freaking convince myself to do one. And then I can't stop. And then I'm wondering, how did I do that? And that is important for you to acknowledge that, and for me to acknowledge that on a regular basis. Because I know grace and mercy saved me, man. So we'll stop there, and this is where we'll pick up on page 37, the bottom of page 37. What's today? Saturday. On Tuesday. So God bless y'all, man, and thank you for joining us, and have a beautiful night, man. Amen.